friends. Welcome to Flosstube and Variety Show number 163, I think. Today is July 25th, 2025, and I am Emily Williams in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Thanks so much for joining me today for Flosstube, which means cross stitch, and Variety Show, which means something else, which today is going to mean cross stitch too, I think. Well, we'll see. We'll see what comes along. I'm going to show you cross stitch first. This is Under the Roof of Blue Ionian Weather. This is, they call it the small version. I think on their website it might be listed as medium, but it's only 72,000 stitches, and I am coming down to the short rows, as they say. I've done about 650 stitches is all since last week. My goal had sort of been 1,000, but I got a little derailed this week with a few things going on, including our son who visited the past couple of days, which I'll tell you more about what he was up to. But of course I'm working in this section, and I've been following this column of this archway down, because if I can get at least some stitches into this whole area, then I'll be able to move across better. I think it'll make it easier to work on the whole piece if I don't have this whole blank area. Something has to get in there to anchor, to let me count more easily how the next thing gets in. So that's my goal. I also removed, I think, 2 more of these guide threads that I have. And what that means is that I filled in all the little random single stitches that were hanging out. So my practice has been, I remove this thread, one of these threads, when there are no stitches on this side of it that remain to be stitched. In the last case, the most recent red thread that I moved, which would have been, where am I? Yeah, it would have been going down about here. There are actually 2 stitches about in there that haven't been done. But they're a color that also appears in here, and so it'll be very easy to find them and do them, so I'm not worried about that. But I am still on track, even with some slightly altered plans that I'll have coming up and some travel next week. I'm still on track to finish this year, and that is a major goal. In fact, at the moment, I think I have about 28 days. I'm about 28 days ahead of my schedule working on it, which is about the number of days I'll be traveling between now and the end of December. So I do have to keep working on it, and my hope had been to finish it sometime in early December. So we'll see how that goes. Hannah Green, 1826. This is the stitch along that I am nominally leading. Several people post on Instagram from time to time their progress. That's fantastic. I think there are a lot of people working on it with a goal of finishing it by March 1st, 2026, which would be 200 years after Hannah Green finished this sampler. And I just think it's gorgeous. This is the division of the chart. In the description field below every video that I show this, I comment that I'm actually working ahead on this section of the full coverage at the bottom. And I am finishing this as part of June, July, and August in order to just take this right out of the mix. So the July stitching is this section up here, plus the 3rd line of the verse, plus now a portion of this down here. And I have finished the official July stitching, and I'm working on the lawn part. So here's the whole of what I have done. The July stitching up here wasn't very much. And the third line of the verse is finished. This is 36 count, just the ticket by Tabby Cat. I'm using the DMCs that are in the chart, except for the over 1, I'm using 103s, the equivalent 103s that are in the chart. And I love it. This is 2, I'm doing it 2 over 2. I haven't worked any more down here. And also last time I said the cow was finished. Well, the cow, interestingly, the cow looks finished, doesn't it? Because that's, if you're gonna have a cow that has red outline, you might expect the body of the cow to be some cow-colored color, but no, this cow is blue. So I actually have to fill in the blue of that cow. I really enjoy working on this. I mean, if I were a monogamous style stitcher, I could definitely do that for many weeks in a row, I think. And if I did it, I would finish it, probably. I've been working on the Jane Greenoff project for our Mrs. Parkman's Academy of Needlework event in Swindon, England, which is in October, which is just right around the corner. My goal had been to really devote July to getting this finished, and I am, you know, it's the 25th, I don't know. So I'm not really, this is the first section at the top. There are a few little insects that belong in there, and French knots, wherever they appear, they have not been stitched yet. This is done, this is done, this is done, although interestingly, everything else in this chart has backstitching, and that little panel doesn't. So I'm considering backstitching it. This is done, I think. Yes, that's right. I had first thought that there might have been ladybugs or something in there, but there isn't. This section is done, and so I'm working on the final section of the main deal, which is way down here. Now there's another section that the chart is given, which is a lining that you stitch to the back of this, which is this. And I haven't started that. I haven't laid it out. I have plenty of fabric to do it. This is Dusty Road by maybe Needle and Flax. I don't know, I don't remember. It is Dusty Road. This is 32 count. It's, the pattern calls for natural or raw linen 32 count, which I'm not doing. And this is actually a pretty close color to it, but I'm enjoying working on this. There's a lot of back stitching, as I've mentioned before. It's been so great this week to work on it without having to do the mental gymnastics of figuring out if it's right side up or upside down or whatever. I've been working a little more on this a Quaker pattern book with my needle, Ellen Chester. I'm working on this panel right here. And I'm not going to take it out of the hoop because the whole panel fits in there. I mean, this is a 6-inch hoop. You can see how tiny this is. This is 56 count Albarium by Cedar River Linen, and I'm using Soie surfine in a beautiful blue color, which I can't remember the number. But in the description field, the details, I sometimes don't remember to mention the details of what exactly it is that I'm stitching on or with, but you will find it all in the description field if you're ever interested. Soie surfine on 56 count is just gorgeous. It is. Every stitch, you can see every stitch. It's really beautiful. I got to that point and I had run out of thread at that point where I was stitching down here. I might have made a counting error, which is a little bit, that would be bad because I can't, I mean, I have had to pull some out a little bit when I've made a mistake, but it's so small. That is not a travel piece. That is not a candidate as a travel piece because it's just too small. And finally, I worked a little bit more on Bertram Bertram Savile Ogle. This was from the All Things Bright and Beautiful box. I had finished the top row of motifs last time, and so this time I carried this border down a lot, and I put in the harp and this little eagle. This is 46 count Latte, and I'm using 103s, the 103s that are called for. Very enjoyable to work on that. So the next motif, interestingly, is this that looks like a lady's handbag. So I don't know. You know, he was a boy when he stitched this. I don't know whose handbag that is. Or maybe it looks like a lady's handbag to us, but it's really a boy's satchel or something. Don't know. But that is fun to work on. I'll probably set this aside, though, in the coming couple of weeks because I have other things to work on. That is all I've worked on this week. And I will say that I'm impressed that I got that much done because it's been sort of we had some surprises this week. The most recent was that Scott came, our son. He came Wednesday afternoon, and he came with his sledgehammer and wedge with the goal of splitting firewood for us and doing other things around the yard that we had asked him if he would help out with. So he helped Byron put a tarp over the shed, which we're going to replace the shed, but for the time being, there's a leak in the roof, so we have a tarp over it. And he took down a big vine in the front of our house that keeps trying to climb into the bedrooms. He cut it way back. It's possible that it will die because it was cut back too far, but I doubt it. I think it's going to regrow. But it will regrow with, you know, fresh, soft, new growth. It'll be easier to keep under control. So we probably will be able to manage it ourselves for the next few years. I mean, I don't like getting on a ladder. I don't really like Byron getting on a ladder. A young friend of ours has said in his observing of people in construction work, if you want to live a long and happy life and healthy life, you should avoid ladders after you turn 50. Well, we are beyond 50, so we should be avoiding ladders. And it does require some amount of ladders to control that vine. So I don't know. If it didn't survive, that wouldn't be the end of the world. It's a Carolina jasmine, which has trumpet-shaped yellow flowers in the spring that are fragrant, and they're very nice. But it's not worth climbing a ladder for, I think. But anyway, he took care of that, and then the big thing he did was split wood, and I'll put a picture in here, a couple pictures maybe, of him working on the wood. We had some trees taken out within the past month, and the guys had left the logs stacked that I can, in smaller lengths so that I could put them in my fire pit, and Scott was going to split them for us so that it would season over this coming year, and then by next year, a year from now, it would be able to be burned. And he had been sort of watching the weather in order to pick some days that it wasn't going to rain, and he picked well. So it was great that he was here. Yesterday was my husband's and my 43rd wedding anniversary. And I will put a picture of us here. And as you can see, we haven't changed at all. We were married in the First Baptist Church in Leroy, New York, which is right across the street from St. Mark's Church, which was my childhood church, but at the time my parents were attending the First Baptist Church, and many friends. I mean, I suppose from a purely church politics standpoint, there was probably a rivalry between the First Baptist Church and the Episcopal Church, but I don't know, it really came down to who had the great preaching going on, the great sermons going on, I would say. And anyway, we were married in the First Baptist Church, and you can see that in the background. It's kind of sobering to look at that picture and the other pictures in our wedding album and realize the number of people who are not alive anymore, including all of our parents, Byron's and mine, who are not alive anymore after 43 years. Not surprising, 43 years is a long time. But anyway, it's fun to look back at those pictures. And we were very thin and very young. We were very thin. I think we were unhealthily thin. Don't you think we were just scrawny is what we were? Yes, please go with me there. So anyway, Scott was here for that. We grilled pizza the first night, which was very successful, and we grilled chicken and zucchini and pineapple the second night, which was our anniversary dinner, and that was pretty good. I mean, I hadn't done chicken on this new grill yet. You know, experience teaches. I would say that the chicken could have gone 2 minutes less, and the zucchini could have gone 1 minute more, or maybe 30 seconds more, but it was very good. So that's sort of what happened this week. And with Scott here, you know, we played video games and chatted instead of me being full bore into the stitching. So what I thought I would talk about is my upcoming plans. So I'm beginning to feel the pressure of the countdown between now and when I leave for England. And I leave for England in just under 3 months. In fact, in about 11 weeks, I think. That's scary. 11 weeks. Could that be? We get back 3 months from today, which would be about 13 weeks. We'll be there roughly 2 weeks. So I think it's around 11 weeks. So in that time, I have things I need to finish. And so I thought I'd show you what they are. One of them is, you may recall, when I used to stitch Blackbird the first weekend of every month, I stitched this, which is called Blooming Sunflowers, which is from the Winds of Autumn book. And you see it's supposed to be made into a little bag, which I'm going to do. So I finished it a few months ago, and of course, then I lost track of where I'd put it, and that was a bit of a panic, but I found it. In the meantime, I created this cording. This is lucite cording, and you make it using a lucite fork, which I have my lucite forks right here. And you can go online and find out about what a lucite fork is, but it's a way, it's sort of like making I-cord, actually, where your thread, I mean, it's, you see there's an upper and lower thread on this tine of the fork, and I pull the lower one over the upper one and rotate it, and that makes the cording. So I made cording out of, I believe this is 712, DMC 712, all 6 strands, and I made the whole length. Now here's the interesting thing. This is, see there's about a 6-inch tail on that end and a 5-inch tail on this end. But a whole skein of DMC is 8 yards or 8 meters. And it made this much, just, I think this might be just over about 28 inches of cording. It is enough to form the ties for this bag, but I thought this was gonna look nice. So I made the cording. I don't have the silk ribbon that the pattern calls for, but this will be nice. and I've made it myself. And I'm considering making some tatting. If you look at this picture, this is what the bag looks like, the way they've finished it. And I could conceive of putting a little row of tatting across the top of that, but maybe it doesn't need it. So anyway, I might or might not. I might just decide I'll make a little tatted rosette and put it in the bag along with a couple of interesting buttons and things that the recipient can use for finishing. I'm not sure exactly what I'll do, but that is finished. It needs to be made into the bag. The instructions call for it to be backed with a cotton fabric for the back of the bag and for the lining of the bag. So I need to make a selection. I have a lot of good choices that will go with that. So that is that. I put my own initial on it, the E there, because I don't know who's going to receive it. It's for the Smalls exchange. And so they can remember, they can think of me when they see it. Another plan I have is, of course, after I finish the Jane Greenoff, I need to work on the corner gauge pocket, which is the Ray Niles special project that I'm taking the little class for, the finishing of. And so she has in here the charts for these different designs that represent, of course, the Swindon event. And you choose two. You put one for the front, one for the back, and you stitch it on the lower half of the fabric, and then the upper half becomes the other side of the pocket. And I'm using this piece of, I think this is, pretty sure this is 36 count. Creme Brulee by Tabby Cat. And it's huge, very deeply modeled, isn't it? Now, it's not the most modeled of any creme brulee I've seen, but it's much deeper modeling than I would normally do, but I don't mind it because it's modeled, but it's all dark, sort of. And the way this thing is made is you stitch, and then you stitch on the lower half, so the upper half becomes the lining. And so I'll decide how I want to do it. I can, stitch them any way I like, where this could be on the outside or the inside. And so I'll sort of lay this out to figure out how I think it's going to look best on the fabric. This was from a little Smalls or ornament pack that I got at the last Great British Sampler weekend in 2023 when I was there. So finishing the bag, stitching that, and making something or selecting something, deciding on something for table gifts are things that I have to give time to. Now I have made a decision, I think, about table gifts. I just have to execute it. I spent the past couple, on and off for the past couple months doing some prototyping. I think I have settled on how I want to do it. So there's that project. And I might do some stitch table gifts for, I don't know why. I might make some extras because there are going to be people there that won't be at our table necessarily, that I would definitely not want to leave out of the chance to make a connection and give a little token of appreciation. So I may take several different things, but I have to give time and attention to doing that. And then the final thing, which does not have to do with the next 11 weeks, really, but it's another thing I'm going to be doing is I'm doing a little stitching for Leslie, which I don't think I have my full assignment yet on what that's going to be. But another thing that I'm going to do, I didn't bring out any printout of it, and I can't really show you anything anyway because there's no picture. All I have is the chart, which I shouldn't show you. But I had bought a few months ago Easter egg patterns, which were for two-sided egg-shaped cross-stitching, and they had Nordic designs on them. And I think there were a dozen eggs. I think that was how it was laid out. I haven't looked at it in a while, so I'm not sure that I remember exactly. But I had set aside a couple of pieces of fabric. There was some pink in 40 count linen, and I had a 18 count Aida in orangey yellow color. And I was sort of thinking through my stash what I have of other Easter egg type colors that I could stitch these simple designs on using different colored fabrics and make a basket of Easter eggs for myself to have on display in future Easters. Well, I'm not going to have many of them ready by this coming Easter because that's really right around the corner. But I was sort of keeping an eye on fabric. Well, today I got in the mail the first and second quarter patron reward fabrics from Fox and Rabbit, and they're perfect. So this is called Winter. This is a very pale blue, as you see. This is 18 count Aida. That color is showing pretty well. It's a beautiful pale blue. It's a beautiful Easter egg color. This is called Spring. Again, perfect pink color. This is 18 count Aida. The other pink I have, which also is Fox and Rabbit, possibly it is also called Spring. It may be the same color, but it's 40 count linen, I think. And then I have, this is called Summer. It's a very lovely pale green, 36 count linen. These are all fat quarters. That's really beautiful. And Fall, this delicate orange. And the color in this area, you know, forget this where there's little glare from the light. That is a pretty good representation. It's just beautiful. I really do like Fox and Rabbit linen. I've used it a lot. The biggest project I'm currently using it on is Hannah Campbell, which is the Irish sampler that I am working on, which I've worked on a few times this year. But I started it maybe last year, possibly. I can't remember. Might have started it the year before. Might have been some time ago. I have records somewhere. But I'm using their ballet slippers, which is one of their standard colors that they make. It's a beautiful sampler color. I've used flannel flower up in the attic. I have a 56 count hog bristle and a 16 count Aida hog bristle in my stash, and many others. There's a beautiful blue color, which I think I set into my Easter egg idea, which I think was called Ocean Breeze or something, that was a little bluer than this. So this is paler than that was. But I think it'll be fun to work on those little Easter eggs, and they'll be a quick stitch, and then hopefully I'll actually finish them. I have other finishing I need to do up there. Up there meaning in my sewing room. I also pulled out Jane Boyer 1831 again, and I'm working on what's going to go in the book, in the pattern for it. I wrote the text for it, and I have sort of, what I wrote, I made some promises of things that were going to be included in the chart, which means I better work on them, which I can do. I will say that there's so much that goes into creating a chart. It gives me a lot more recognition of the many places that errors can crop in. And this chart hopefully will be error-free enough for a stitcher to work from. It will be eventually available from the Leroy Historical Society I think as a paper chart. I think that's what the plan was. So once it's available, I will put in my description field how you could get a copy yourself. And I think it will be quite nice. I think it will be sort of a unique approach to a sampler adaptation. And if you want to know more about this, I stitched this and talked about it on my video over the past several months, so you can look back at older videos. I think I started it in March maybe and finished it in May. That sounds about right, something like that. So you can look back and you'll find mentions of it, and you can see my progress. And I describe in those other videos what I'm doing. So what is happening coming up? So I'm here this weekend. I have a lot of sewing plans. Wednesday, next week, I'm flying to Ottawa for several days. So I will not be making a video next week. I'm not sure what projects I might take up there to work on when I'm with Anne. I don't know. I need to take something that either has very few colors, or if it has a lot of colors, it's very straightforward. And if I take cross stitch, which I think I probably will, I might take Hannah Green to work on the fill-in of the lawn. And I could probably work on the August section because it is another big flower pot, same as the one in the other opposite corner. And there's some border to do. So there's things that I could do. And Hannah Green is a lot of symmetrical stitching, and it isn't a lot of wild stuff, and there's not as many colors. So it is possible to think of taking it as a travel piece. I also sometimes take Harriet Salt as a travel piece because it's only one color. And so it's one chart, one piece of fabric, one hoop, one batch of thread, and a pair of scissors. But of course, whatever I take, I have to take my magnifying lamp. So I probably will take something. What do you think, Anne? And, but we'll play games and go out for walks. It's supposed to be beastly hot here these next several days. I mean, we have an extreme heat warning happening right now. I think it's still in effect. And tomorrow we have an extreme heat warning, and I predict there will be extreme heat warnings the rest of the month of July every day, because it's going to be in the upper 90s. 97, 98 are the forecast highs, and it's going to be humid, and that is the combination. Upper 90s, if it were not humid, would probably not get an extreme heat warning. It might get a heat warning, but not extreme. But once you add humidity into it, that's when it seems to trigger the extreme heat warning. But in Canada, it's going to be cooler. So that'll be very pleasant. And there's at least one place that I have eaten up there with Anne where we eat outdoors. Such a lovely idea. Urban eating outdoors. Eating outdoors when camping is fun if there are no yellow jackets. And of course, when we've been camping in the past, we have a kitchen tent, so we can put close the screens and keep most of the insects out. Anyway, I am going on and on about things that are not pertinent. I will not make a video next week. I will be back in August. And I hope that you have a great stitching weekend and a couple weeks ahead. The summer is beginning to feel like it's winding down once August starts. Schools in North Carolina start in the middle of the month, so it's definitely feeling like the last moments of summer are upon us. I hope that you enjoy the rest of the summer. Enjoy the heat, just be careful, and many blessings to you, friends.